Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to the SFC interviews. This is Mike Heineman here with Neil Trebble today. So how you doing, Neil? How's things been?
Very good, thank you. I've probably one of the few people that have carried on working through lockdown 1 and lockdown 2. Classed as an essential worker. Not so sure about that, but I accepted it.
Fair enough.
And yeah, family's been good. So yeah, I just living in these surreal times, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just great to have football still carrying on as well, because it's a little sort of sense of normality to it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to have Tottenham top of the league as well, even if it was just for a short time. We'll take it.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. But we'll jump into Stevenage and when you sort of signed for the football club. So let's go back. Well, how many years ago is this now? This is probably 25. Trying to think how many years it will be now when you actually signed for the club. Yeah.
My first involvement with the club was in '92. Some people might know that, when I was still in the army.
Yeah.
I played for Stevenage in the old Deodora League.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in '92. So that's 28 years ago. I turned up at training as a complete unknown. I was in my vest, my shorts, my socks, my trainers. I saw Paul Fairclough on the steps and asked if I could join in training.
Yeah.
He kind of looked at me up and down, and I think at that point it was 50-50. But he said, "Okay, all right then, let's see how this turns out." And yeah, just week on week, more and more people were being asked to leave, and people were being asked to stay, and I stayed, and that was my first opportunity, and I took that opportunity.
And then you made your debut and actually scored in your debut as well in the Hearts Charity Cup. So that's like the Hearts Senior Cup of these days, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it was against Bishop Stortford. I think.
Yeah, it was.
Right, and I think I scored. I believe.
Yeah, scored one, and I think you were playing up front with Gitz.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it was a funny start to the season, because Mark Smith was actually started up front, and he scored 4.
Yeah, I spoke to Smudge. Yeah.
Yeah, on his debut, or his debut for that season, and I was a sub, and then he eventually, because I sort of started to perform up front. They moved Mark into defence.
Yeah.
And he ended up, well, the rest is history, isn't it? Probably one of the greatest defenders Stevenage has ever had.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, we touched on it there. You played up top alongside club legend Martin Gittins as well. So, what was it like to, sort of form a strike partnership with him?
Well, to be honest, me and him couldn't stand each other, right? Because he was such an arrogant, and I wasn't, and he was, but he was one of the best forwards I've ever played with, and actually we became very good friends. We worked together in later life as well, and it's obviously, it's sad news at the moment what's happening with Martin, but he was a great player.
Oh, I think we've lost you. I think it might have froze, is it? What's happening there? Have we lost you? Yeah. We've lost you. Oh, this isn't good.
Sorry, you got me?
Yeah, I got you back. Yeah.
Yeah, a funny story. We were playing against Bath in the FA Trophy. Bath were an established conference team, and we actually won that. We won the game 2-0, I think, and I scored early on. Anyway, Martin was up against a defender known as Ricketts, his name was, and he was well known in the non-league scene for being quite a nasty piece of work. We was only a few minutes into the game, and Martin was stood next to him, and he looked over at me, and he said, "You know what, Neil? You're right. He is ugly." The rest of the game, avoiding Mr. Ricketts, who was gunning for me, and he used to do that all the time. Martin, he was a hell of a character.
And let's jump into Paul Fairclough as well. You touched on it a little bit there, but what was he like as a manager to play under?
Oh, he was superb. I mean, he was just, I have everything to be thankful to him for. He gave me the opportunity. He was an excellent guide, in terms of how you approach the game. I think, as well. Not just, in terms of the match itself, but, you're off the field, looking after yourself, even though we was completely non-league then, trained twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
I think also keen to mention Paul Peterson as well, who was coach. I mean, Paul, as a pair, they couldn't have been any better. It was definitely good cop, bad cop at times, and Paul just had the ability to make you feel, like the best player on the planet. So it was the combination. But yeah, Paul Fairclough, undoubted, for me, the best manager I played under.
And we've had a couple of questions come through as well. This one in regards to when we played Woking and we ended up beating Woking. So, what are your memories around that game and around sort of the celebrations and stuff after that as well?
Well, that was the bank holiday, wasn't it? I believe.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Woking were our nearest rivals for the title, and I hadn't been back at the club very long.
Mm-hmm.
I'd played in a couple of games prior to that, and yeah, I was put in for that game, and we smashed them.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, and it was fantastic. And I do remember, because I think I got the fourth goal.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great move. Dave Venables put a pinpoint cross. I scored with a header, quite rare, and it was, I couldn't miss. But I remember as I ran past the Woking fans, they was actually applauding our goal.
Oh wow! Yeah.
I don't think you'd ever see that again.
No.
It was it wasn't a clincher.
Mm-hmm.
I think the clincher was probably Kidderminster away a few days later, but it was it put distance between us and them, and it was the best feeling, whacking them, the best.
Yeah. And also there was a couple of other games as well. The game against Carl Shulton, where you ended up getting a hat trick and winning. I think we won 3-2 that day, and you scored all of the goals. So those sort of games, what were they like as well to kind of be the difference on the day?
Yeah, I was learning my trade. I was learning about how to play at a senior level. I think at that stage because I was so raw, I was scoring goals quite more easily because I hadn't actually been coached. I was just kind of like just reacting and just doing it off the hoof, which was better for me. I think there was another game. We played against Grays. This is where me and Martin, Martin Gittins, we used to clash so much. We played against Grays, and it was an evening game, and we were winning 2-1. We were struggling. I was just about to be taken off,
right?
And I scored 4 goals in the space of 12 minutes.
Oh wow! Yeah. I think I noted that one down as well. Yeah.
I got man of the match, and I'll be honest with you, I was awful. I couldn't trap a bag of cement that night. I was so bad. And I got into the change room afterwards, and obviously the lads were elated, a stomping win.
Yeah.
And Martin came in and threw his boots on the floor and said, "What's going on? Why you keep giving the ball to him?" And this kind of any fight erupted.
Yeah.
And then a week later, we was at home to Hendon, and we lost 4-1 at home. And Martin scored, and he came in after the game. He came in after the game. He said, put his boots down again. He said, "Well, I've done my job." And it all erupted again.
Didn't fancy helping us out this time.
Say again?
Didn't fancy helping us out with another 4 this time.
No. I just carried on my form from the week before. It was terrible. But
fair enough.
it was great to score. I mean, we scored a lot of goals that season.
Yeah.
Martin was, I think, still ended up top scorer. But to have that in my first season in any type of senior football was great.
We've got some other questions as well before we get onto the inevitable one about the FA Cup. But we do have some other sort of standard questions as well. Let me have a little look at what was actually asked, because there was quite a lot, as I said, from social media and that as well. So let's have a look. What was it like still sort of playing for the club and also being in the army as well?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was difficult at times. And again, I had great support from both the club and from the army. And I don't mean the army in general. It's just individuals within my battalion who were particularly helpful, because I would go on to, I'd be on Royal Guard, for example, outside Buckingham Palace on a Saturday morning. I'd come off the guard to go and get on the train, get down to Stevenage and play a game.
Yeah.
And then I'll be back outside the palace by 7 o'clock at night. And that was
evening.
only made possible because the guard sergeant was allowed that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a balance, because also I was playing for the combined services football team, the army team. So I was playing a lot of football, but I just managed, I mean, what a life. What a life. There's no way where if I had missed the odd game, it was the odd game, and it was just hook by crook, really.
Fair enough. All right. And then, so upon leaving the club, you went to a number of other clubs: Scunthorpe, Preston, Scarborough as well. And some of those were actually going into sort of full-time football, weren't they, as well? So what was that sort of transition period like?
Yeah, it was a big transition, because they were all full-time. I was taken out of I was bought from the army by Scunthorpe, which in itself was a situation, because I was due to go out to Northern Ireland on tour for the second time. Mm-hmm. And the regiment wanted me to be part of that. I was one of the few soldiers within the regiment that had already served out there once. I wasn't in a position where I didn't want to go. It was a fact that if I didn't take that opportunity for the football, it may not come again. So there was negotiations going on internally within the regiment. There was disagreements going on, but eventually I was allowed to leave, and I signed for Scunthorpe. And I look back on my professional career with mixed emotions. I think I wish I knew then what I know now about football and about myself. Mm-hmm. I think I would have done better, but I still had some great times, some great moments, and ultimately I played football for a living. Which how many kids dreamt of that? I dreamt of that, to get the chance to do that. And also, like, as a kid, I wanted to be a soldier and a footballer. So to achieve those two things was hugely, satisfying and an achievement, a personal achievement.
All right, that's great then as well, to actually be able to do the two, and to say you've done both, which is great.
Absolutely.
And then upon leaving Scarborough was when you returned back to the club. So what was it about Stevenage that you wanted to come back and rejoin the club again?
It's my hometown, and obviously I'd kept an eye on. I mean, my involvement with Stevenage went back to the age of 4. When I used to go down to King George's, with the roped off pitch with my dad, and then I used to, along with a couple of friends, used to sneak into Broadhall Way under the fence in one of the corners where we dug a little tunnel, because we couldn't afford to pay to get in. And I grew up with it, and that was my club. And when the chance came to go back, I took it.
All right, that's a good enough answer, to be honest. So moving on to that 95-96 season, we touched on that, the game against Woking as well there. But yeah, that was the season. Was that the season we got promoted and weren't allowed to go up?
That's right. Yeah. We won the league. I mean, there was lots of before I came back, and part of the reason for coming back as well was I was offered a role setting up the FCO training scheme. And being one of the coaches on that. So I was basically full time at the club. I was running the community side of things, and the involved in the FCO scheme and playing as well. So we were. I mean, there were lots of talk that we would be successful in that legal case. We wasn't, but we paved the way for lots of clubs following on who were able to go into the league without their grounds being at a certain standard immediately. It's quite ironic, actually. I was talking to somebody a little while ago about the Macclesfield situation last season. The Macclesfield fans were obviously bemoaning the fact that Stevenage, were saved, if you like, and Macclesfield went into, oblivion, essentially. But Macclesfield fans ought to remember that the season after we won the league, Macclesfield won the league.
That's right.
And they got promoted off the back of the changes that were made, in the Stevenage legal case. So, whilst we didn't benefit, lots of other clubs did.
And Macclesfield that season as well, when we won the league and obviously weren't allowed up because of the ground, I'm sure they were the club that stayed in the Football League ahead of us.
You might be right. I'm not sure. Was it them? Was they? It might have been Scarborough. It might have been Torquay, because I don't think Macclesfield were in the league then. They weren't in. They weren't. Yeah, they weren't in. Yeah. I think they may not have even been in the conference that season. I think they was the league below. But
below that,
certainly, like I said, every team since then benefited from that ruling. You know, just a shame that we didn't, and obviously it took a number of years for us to take our rightful place.
And of course, you know, you've seen a lot of the club sort of rise through the Football League, through the conference, through League Two, through League One, from doing some other sort of media work and stuff as well, commentary work and media work and that. So, you know, it's just great to be able to see that, isn't it? As a former player, you know, see the rise back up into the rightful place.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the players that were involved in '96, you know, shed a little tear when Stevenage did get promoted to the league. It was justice for all, really. It felt like, you know, and it was great to see the club have their league status. And yeah, to be playing. I mean, they got so close to the Championship, you know, and looking back, like I say, for myself and lots of people like me. Obviously, there's lots of fans at Stevenage who remember the club being reformed back in the early '70s, and the journey, you know, for so many years in the non-league scene. Yeah. And now to be an established, you know, league club is you know, it's great for, you know, it's great memories. All the whole journey, you know, and it's been mainly up, isn't it? Let's be honest. But the last couple of seasons have been you know, a little bit more troubling.
And what would you say that was down to as well? The last few seasons. What's your sort of analysis on that? The fact that
you really want to know?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Be careful who I upset. I just think I don't know. Look, the end of the day, I've got a lot of respect for the way the club's run.
Yeah.
I think they are going to be one of the few clubs that emerge from this crisis, you know, that we're seeing, with the ability to move forward, and that's great credit to the chairman. To the board, you know, that they're able to do that. I know the chairman supports the club financially, which, you know, when you look at what's happened to people like Macclesfield and what have you, he's proven over a number of years that he is, you know, in for the haul, you know, in for the club.
Yeah.
I think something's going. I'm not happy with what I've seen in terms of recruitment over the last few years. I think some of the signings have been poor. I think there's been a tendency, whilst and it's one of those, I'm 50-50 with it. You want to give managers an opportunity.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes that is maybe you know, potentially the cheaper option, and you take a risk with that. And I you know, don't worry, I think Darren Sole done well. You know, I think the fans played their part in Darren leaving the club, and I think maybe they were a little bit too premature with that. And I wish Alex Ravel, who I think, you know, I've listened to him, I think he's got an outstanding chance as a manager, but I don't think the signings have been that great, you know, and I don't know what the recruitment strategy is. I don't know what they're looking at. But some of those players, you know, in my view, over the last few seasons have not been good enough, hence our league positions.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. And you know, you touched on Alex Ravel there as well. We'll touch on that now. Actually, I was going to touch on it a bit later. But what's that going to do? Of course, you know, with that winning midweek against Port Vale as well, to kind of boost your confidence.
It was a huge win, wasn't it? Because you know, it was like the clouds were hanging over, weren't they? And you know, they've been. I mean, they've not been trounced by anybody. They've been in every game that they've played. Yeah. They've picked up a few draws. There's you know, a couple of those games could have gone either way. Yeah. But that was a big win, and I think, I mean, look, the way that he wants to play and I think his managerial skills, I think, are very good. You know, but you've got to have the tools in order to be successful. But also you've got to make good of what you have got. So big win. I mean, you know, big game tomorrow in the FA Cup. Be great to get through. You know, with fans beginning to trickle back. Who knows what that might lead to if we can get through and get a good draw. Yeah. But ultimately, the league status is so important to the club and so many people employed by the club.
And then you touched on the FA Cup there as well, and that's, we had that great FA Cup run, beating Swindon and then taking Newcastle to a replay. And, I'll take you back to that game at Broadhall Way and the sort of weeks surrounding that as well. The sort of media attention and everything that you guys were getting. And then even on the day, we were good enough to beat them.
Yeah, it was crazy. What a crazy time in life that was. I was actually driving back on the Sunday from a Chiltern League game. I had the Stevenage under-18s, and I was driving along the bypass between Hitchin and Stevenage. I remember it clearly, and then listening to the draw.
Yeah.
And then it came out Stevenage against Newcastle, and I nearly crashed the car, into the middle reservation. But
yeah.
My first thought was, great, we're gonna switch the tie, and we get the chance to play at St James, because there's no way we can host that game at our ground. That was my first thought, and I think it was most people's first thought.
Yeah, it was.
But as well documented, Victor Green, our chairman at the time, saw an opportunity, and and to be fair, he backed us, to maybe, with that home advantage, maybe pull something, pretty historic out the bag. And now the great thing about that, Mike, is that the Premier League teams back in those days, they put out their strongest teams.
Yeah.
And we played the Newcastle team. They wasn't, giving players a run out. It was their, they had £250 million worth of player out in that pitch. We had about 250 quid. And, we matched them. And actually, we should have beaten them in that first game.
Definitely, yeah.
We were excellent. We were fantastic. And that performance was well within us as well, within that group. But, the media stuff was nuts. I mean, the day after that game, we was on the big breakfast.
That's right, yeah.
We'd all been out the night before. Most of us hadn't been asleep. We got straight on a coach at 4 o'clock in the morning down to Denise Van Houten and Johnny. We were fighting over who could get on the sofa because we were all knackered and just wanted to sit down. We was on Noel's house party.
I think on the Saturday, weren't we on the National Lottery as well, didn't they?
Oh, do you know what?
Something like that,
I kind of lost track, It was just, I had the TV companies were following me to school. I took my 3 children to school.
Yeah.
And the TV company followed me to school and were interviewing the kids. I mean, it was just crazy. And then, of course, we had the replay where, it got nasty, didn't it, between the 2 games? And Newcastle wanted to give us a thumping, and their fans wanted to give us a thumping. Normally, when a non-league club goes to a Premier League club, the Premier League club are very welcoming. They're very like, you enjoy your day out. And
it was the complete opposite.
Yeah, we were going there for the win.
Yeah.
And we only lost 2-1, and they didn't like that either. But what was amazing, it did make me laugh. Literally, the day after that replay, I didn't see one camera. Nothing. It all went, it just literally ended like that. But I wouldn't swap that experience for the world. It was probably, my greatest football experience.
And I spoke to Smudger as well, as I was saying, and he's still adamant that Alan Shearer goal didn't cross the line.
No way. Yeah, I think they've analysed it, haven't they, with technology, and said it was nowhere near it.
Yeah.
I think that was definitely a case of the the pressure on the referee, and that kind of, well, the big boys, that's their right, and it wasn't a goal, and we were well in that match as well, well in that match, and ultimately, Alan Shearer, one of the greatest strikers the Premier League and England's ever seen, was the difference between Newcastle and Stevenage.
Exactly, and then of course we had the tie under Graham Wesley as well down here at Broadhall Way, or the Lamex at that point had been renamed, hadn't it? And we got one over on them, and on that day, all of you guys were there, weren't you? And I think you actually arranged the reunion, I think, if I remember rightly as well.
Yeah, so we were there for that game. It was fantastic game, wasn't it? And Stevenage absolutely worthy winners that day.
Played them off the park, yeah.
Oh, wonderful game, wonderful result. great for those people that had experienced both those games as well. You know, for a sense of vengeance, if you like.
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? You're talking about vengeance over a Premier League club.
I know.
And,
but Newcastle fans are still bitter over that as well. I have a few Newcastle fans that I speak to, and you know, they're still, you know, when they say when anyone mentions Stevenage to them, they're very very bitter over that. They don't like Stevenage as a club.
No, well, they're not alone, are they? I think Stevenage have gained that reputation over the years, mainly through success, you know, and also through I think through a culture of aggression and in your face, which Stevenage teams have always been, haven't they? And I don't think, you know, some people don't like that. But, you know, when you've been part of it, you love it. Who cares? You know, look, you know, yeah, I did. I mean, going back to your question, I did organise a reunion. That was terrific as well. Seeing the faces back. You know, we played a game against the supporters team the next day. A little bit worse for wear after the night out, but that was another, you know, great experience. The guys from the fans team said, you know, look, what, you know, how wonderful for us to be on the pitch with you guys, and Mark Smith still looked like he was about 20.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah. You can. He might watch this and he'll know what I mean. It was as if he hadn't retired. In fact, he'd probably still do a job now, I think.
And then you know, you said you sort of touched on it there, but did you truly believe that we could actually beat Newcastle?
Yes, yeah, we did. Well, that was the first dabble that we had into what was going to become very prominent for Paul Fairclough in the whole psychology stuff, because we were obviously quite worried taking on Newcastle at home, live on Sky.
Yeah.
The way that the game had been promoted, we knew there was going to be millions of people around the world watching this game. And there was us, you know, part-time footballers, you know, decorators, teachers, you know, all sorts. And we didn't want to get thumped.
No,
you know, that was going to be the worst feeling in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul actually brought a psychologist in about 2 or 3 days before the game, and who gave us a bit of a talking to, and we did some exercises with this guy, and I have to say it proved invaluable because it took the heat off us in terms of any pressure we was putting on ourselves. And also what happened was when because Alan Shearer scored after about 5 minutes, I think it was,
3-4 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, 4 minutes. And we all sort of looked at each other and as if to say, well, do you know what? We knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because he's a world-class player. So now we can just get on with the game. And it just relaxed everyone. And we just kind of went, you know what, let's just play our game now. It don't matter. It doesn't matter what happens. Let's just go and give it a go. And we did give it a go. And we gave it a real good go, you know, and showed not only our courage, but our skill as well. I mean, it was a quality performance. But yeah, we did. We looked at their back line. I think their average age of their back line was about 34, and we thought, you know what, we could get at these. We could get a result.
And I'm just looking through. You know, I made a note of some of the players that were playing as well, not just Alan Shearer, but you know, David Batty, Stuart Pearce, guys like that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, it was their team. It was Rob Lee, Gillespie, Philip Albert. You know, this was not a second string Newcastle team by any stretch. So, and which makes which is great. And I think that's such a shame now for lower league players that often when they come against the Premier, if they get drawn against a Premier League team, the stars of that Premier League team will often be sat in the stands. And whilst you're still playing that Premier League team, it's not quite the same. You know, you can't, even if you pull off a result, there's always that line that can come back. Well, you know, they didn't have their best team out, and that's a shame, I think.
There's a couple of games that I've made a little note of and looked into from other teams as well. I think it was Southend knocked out Man United in the League Cup, and they had like Cristiano Ronaldo, Rooney playing for them, and that's the point as well. What you're getting at,
Yeah, and that's why. I mean, I have zero tolerance for any club, including my own, Tottenham, for fielding weak sides in the FA Cup. I have zero tolerance for it. It discredits the cup. And it also disrespects the team that you're playing against. You know, the players at the low levels, they are hand to mouth, footballers. You know, they get paid. They got, the same bills. And low level income. I don't mean that, most people will say, oh, come on, but in relative terms, and actually what they want out of their football career is, yes, success at their level, but when they do get matched against a big team, is to play against the very best players. And if you're denied that opportunity because of someone's arrogance over the fact there's too many games to play in the season, well, that's nonsense. That's nonsense.
And of course, you mentioned there being a Spurs fan as well, and that was another tie that Stevenage got, and another team they took to a replay as well, when even went 1-0 up at White Hart Lane with Joel's penalty. So
yeah. I mean, that era for Stevenage was just phenomenal, wasn't it? The FA Cup games, the successes in the leagues, getting so close to the Championship. I mean, I think there'll be a continuous argument about who's the greatest ever manager for Stevenage. There'll be a lot of younger supporters who would definitely side with Wesley, and that's fair enough. And there'll be some older ones that would look at the Fairclough sort of reign as getting it through into that league position. But I think they both served the club fantastically well, and both should be remembered for the successes they brought.
Absolutely, yeah. And they both had very different successes as well. Some of them have been very similar, but some have been quite different as well.
Absolutely.
So let's have a look here now. So we touched on that one there. And obviously we said about the rise through the divisions and stuff as well, and almost been up in the Championship, as we were saying. So let's have a look. So how were you given the gig really on BBC Three Counties Radio? How did you get into that?
Well, it was through Steve Watkins. He I mean, years ago when I was at Stevenage before, I think it was in the conference seasons. David Croft was the Three Counties local man. David now well known for the Formula One coverage on Sky. And it was David that actually asked me to when I wasn't playing, whether by injury or not good enough, I would go up in the commentary box with him and do some summarising.
Okay.
So I got a taste for it then, and I really enjoyed it. It was great looking at the game from that perspective. And then then Steve got in touch with me and asked me to get involved again, and I loved it. It's just it is I get on well with Steve. So you have that chemistry, in the commentary box. And you're free, to make your comments and say it how you see it. I don't go out to be controversial. I just say things how I see it. And of course, football is opinions, and then how one person sees it is not how somebody else sees it. So it was. I was asked to do it. I was okay at it, I think, and I got asked to carry on.
And it wasn't just with Stevenage, was it? It was a number of other clubs. It was just the local sort of Three Counties. So you did Northampton, Wickham, some of the other clubs as well.
No, not for them. No, I went to. It was only ever for Stevenage games. So if they played against them, no, I was never. I think the way that the local radio works, they'll always pick a player, that's obviously played for the club. But been to all those grounds and done the co-commentary, but not for their thing. The difficult thing. Well, I don't know if there is a rule to sort of try and remain, neutral or unbiased, but there's no way watching a Stevenage game that I'm not in that box cheering. Score or win the game, And
there's a few current players as well. Jack Smith done it with Steve the other day when he was injured, and he's done a good job as well for all that,
I think it's actually really useful for players to actually take the view from that part of the pitch, and actually see what's going on, because obviously when you're on the pitch you don't see what you see from up there. You don't, suddenly you start to notice things that, and again, you wish you knew when you was a player, because you get a different perspective on the game.
That's right, and there's a few others as well I was going to get into. Joel Byram's done it and stuff as well when he was at the club, and a couple of the other ones as well. But so we've touched on that in regards to that bit there. So how does it feel to be, in that 100+ club as well, with some of the other legends of the club, like Mark Smith, like Martin Gittins, Ronnie as well?
I didn't know I was in that club. What is that? 100 appearances?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know. Wow, yeah. Oh, thanks for telling me that. I'm going to celebrate now. Listen, I mean, to be mentioned in amongst those players, I know I feature on the picture board outside the club
Yeah, yeah.
as well. I showed my 10-year-old son that picture, last season when we went down to one of the games,
Hmm.
and of course, that makes you feel very proud. Very proud and thankful. And again, I don't look back on any part of my career with regrets. I just look back and feel blessed. That I had the opportunity to do something that so many people would love to do.
All right. And then, so, we've said that there as well. So what would you say in regards to anyone that, wanted to get into the sort of commentary side of it? It could be one of the ex-players or just somebody that wants to give it a go and, might be doing it on, because I'm doing a little bit of
Are you probing at the moment?
I'm doing a bit of online stuff. So yeah, online.
I
Online
think.
commentary.
Look, I don't. I mean, in terms of commentary is obviously different to punditry.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I don't think I could do the commentator's job. Steve does a great job of it, and you've got to. You're looking at it from a completely different. You're obviously informing the listening audience of what's taking place.
Yeah.
And you're setting the scene.
Mhm.
You're having to have 10 eyes, if you like.
Yeah.
The job of the co-commentator, if you like, the pundit, me, is very much simpler, because you're just giving opinions on the actual action that's just taken place, or some tactical views, or some perspective from a footballer's point of view.
Yeah.
So that's very, very easy, very easy. I think with the commentary, I think you just got. I mean, what do? I suppose you just practice. That's what I would be doing. I'd be practicing at home,
Yeah.
and doing my own commentaries with the sound off on the TV, if you like.
Mhm.
And then and if you feel bold enough, a bit like when I turned up at Stevenage for pre-season training with a vest and rucksack, maybe send it into your local station and see, somebody might go, "Do you know what, I really like that."
Yeah, because that's what we do. We do a sort of RS media channel. It's my mate Ryan who runs it, and he's got quite a few of us on it, and I commentate on there, and
Oh, okay.
sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes commentate, sometimes do the analysis, and sort of to and fro in between the two sometimes as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, I just think anybody that wants to get into it.
Mhm.
I mean, all of these things come down to passion, Mike, don't they? Because you can tell the people that are passionate about what they do, and the
Mhm.
passion always comes through. And as long as that's controlled and it's projected in the right way,
Yeah.
then you've always got an opportunity, haven't you?
Yeah. Definitely wasn't probing. I was just looking for some serious advice. Like, yeah, but
Oh no, I thought you was going to ask me about the current Three Counties position that
no,
I'm
no,
in.
no, no, nothing like that. No, no, no. But we've spoken about that like privately, and we'll keep that private. So yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But no, in regards to the club as well, and the community stuff that the club are doing, how important is that for the guys at the club to be able to give back?
Well, I mean, first of all, we have to say, what a fantastic job the club did within the pandemic. You People like Dean Thompson,
Yeah.
Jay Drakford, going out with sandwiches,
Hmm.
to people's homes. The club funding that, creating that, was just amazing. And really showed what community spirit is about and is meant to be as well. There was
And there was
nothing.
players, weren't there, as well? I think Ash was out. I think Scotty was out. Rebs was out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was. I mean, you think about it. Like I said, I've been very, very lucky that I've worked all through this pandemic. But
Yeah.
there are people, including footballers, who
Mhm.
were at one point didn't know if they was going to come back.
Yeah.
There was no assurances on football returning, especially
Mhm.
at the low leagues, where it was obviously going to be more difficult to be financially viable, where the club support is so critical to the financial, position of a club.
Mhm.
But still, those players said, no, actually, we're gonna carry on, and we're gonna support where we can, and support people that are in greater need than us.
Yeah.
And I think that was tremendous spirit. I think I would like to see. There's some things about the community stuff I'd like to see improved. I think I think the club can sometimes charge fees for stuff that maybe they shouldn't. I think there's been instances where people have had to pay for trials and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't think that's the right way forward. I think in Alex Partridge, who they brought in, is a very, very good CEO. I think he's done wonderful things at Newport. He was obviously at the club before he went there.
Alex Tunbridge. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Tunbridge. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking of Alan Partridge then, but he won't take that well. And it's the age. I'm 51 now.
That's all right.
It was. I think that's a really good appointment, and I think some of the initiatives that I've seen have been really, really good. You know, and look, you can't be a club in League Two and not engage with your community, because when you need them supporters. You need 2,000 plus in every week, otherwise your club's going to struggle. So that's massively important.
And especially, the area that we're in as well, because we've got, Luton and Watford, who are both Championship clubs nearby. We've got Premier League clubs, Spurs, West Ham, Arsenal, Chelsea, Palace, and the like.
Yeah, I think it's more to do with the Premier League clubs. I think the Arsenal and the sort of Tottenham thing is more obvious, and I think the people that live in Stevenage, you've got to remember Stevenage was an overspill town, so people came from London in the first instance, and so a lot of the loyalties will be within those clubs. But it's like anything. If a club's successful, if your local club's successful, you're going to go and watch them, aren't you? There's always going to be that hardcore will go through rain and sun and the snow, but there'll be those that will latch on when the club's having a good period, and that's a shame it's like that, but that's historically it has been and always will be.
And
But
you just said in regards to the fans there as well, I was just going to jump in and just say, how important is it to get these fans back in now when, of course, there's going to be up to 2,000 for the game a week today. So,
well, I mean, first of all, it's great. That's the first thing. I mean, the lower league clubs are actually going to benefit much more than the higher league clubs when you think about it. I mean, I was thinking 2,000 fans in Tottenham Stadium is like is one person in the Albert Hall. It's like it's going to be nothing. But for Stevenage, for 2,000 fans to be in there, and all home fans as well, there won't be no away fans.
No, yeah.
That's going to be a distinct advantage and great for everyone. Listen, there'll be some players who will be nervous about fans coming back because they prefer it when no one's shouting at them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hope what's taken place, Mike, allows clubs to see how important fans are and how worthless football is without them. Because you can have all the millions in the world from TV revenues and whatever, but without supporters, the game is nothing. And I think that's been proven over the last 6 months. And I hope it's a wake-up call that the football world take on and don't just dismiss as a kind of like, oh well, we're through that now. We can go back to what we were. I mean, I read something in the news today about Chelsea fans. The prices of tickets for the 2,000. I mean, this is these clubs have got to stop exploiting fans. They've got to stop it, and the fans have got to understand that they actually hold more power than they believe. And if fans start boycotting games because of charges, because of unfair, conditions on their attendance, they actually can make changes. They can make changes to the game. So the fans, they've always been important, but people need to know now within the football world just how much they've been missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and actually, we'll probably leave it there. In fact, there was a few comments that were mentioned in regards to other social media stuff, but I want to just sort of skim over that, to be honest. I don't really want to get into it. So.
No problem, mate. I would have answered anything. It doesn't. Yeah. I don't shy away from anyone.
No, that's fine. But I'd rather just keep it. Yeah, keep that under the hat. To be honest with you. Yeah.
Okay, mate. No problem.
So obviously we've got the FA Cup tie tomorrow as well against Hull. So that's going to be a great opportunity to get through into the third round, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, Hull are in good shape, aren't they? At the moment, they're sort of showing their teeth now in League One. So it's going to be a tough game. Yeah. But it's a one-off game, and it's a cup game. And Stevenage, they will be up for it without any doubt. Let's hope they can get a result because, like I say, we don't know how the third round is going to look in terms of supporters. It's obviously not going to be the same as years gone by. We're not going to have full houses, but if we can get through and draw a big club at home and get 2,000 fans into that stadium of ours, then who knows?
Absolutely, it'd be a great opportunity as well for the guys there to test themselves against higher division players. And actually, if you look at how they competed against League One teams, the likes of Portsmouth in the Carabao Cup, and even Northampton and MK Dons as well in the EFO Trophy, they've competed really well.
Yeah, it's a one-off. It's 11 against 11. The players will be fitness-wise; they'll be the same levels. It's just about those extra bits of quality and who takes their opportunities when they come. It'll be a tight game. I'm sure it'll be a tight game. It depends what team Hull put out. Some of these clubs will be looking at it and saying, look, actually, even if we get through, we're not going to get a revenue from a big. Hull want to get back into the Championship. They might not have their strongest team out. Who knows? But Stevenage will have their strongest team out, and they will go for the win. Touch wood, we get the win.
Hopefully, we'll get through into the third round. And as you said, if we get a home tie in the third round as well. With the 2,000 home supporters in there, then you never know what.
Also, what does come into play in that third round, if you get a big club at home, there will be the TV interest. So the club can get some revenue, and I'm sure some much needed revenue from from a TV coverage of a game. So these things are really important right now. Every club is looking for any ray of light, aren't they? Financially.
I was just going to say, tomorrow's game is actually on BBC iPlayer and BBC Sport as well. So there's TV income from that as well.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is, but it won't be. It certainly won't be at the level that
No.
That drawing a big team at home and the possibility of BT coverage and whatever. So
yeah.
Let's hope we get a good win. Get a win. But I think mostly what the fans need to be able to see at the moment is continuous improvement, and that this win against Port Vale is not just a one-off, and we can start climbing up the table as well. Moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, just finally as well, the last few days, Diego Maradona sadly passed away. The Argentine international there, who obviously, was a fantastic player, and, people will remember him for the hand of God, but, other people will remember him for that other world-class goal that he scored in that same game against England as well. And, what are your sort of memories regarding him as a player growing up?
Oh, wow. So I'm one of these people. See, I was a 17-year-old boy watching that World Cup game.
Yeah.
I was up at the Tyne Bridge. I don't know if you know that place, the Tyne Bridge. Yeah, up near No Goal School. It's like a social club.
Okay.
I was playing for Tyne Bridge Sunday team with my dad, with my uncles at that age, and we were watching the game, and it was he cheated. That's a fact. And is he the first player that's ever cheated? No. Is he the last player that's ever cheated? No. But it was just such a painful thing for an England fan, because obviously with today's technology that game wouldn't have stood.
Yeah.
But he then went on to score the greatest goal I think that I've ever seen. As an individual, it was just outstanding goal. He lit up that tournament. In its entirety. He was the player of the tournament.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just struggle. I suppose. Look, there are two things to honour here. There is him as a footballer, and I think we all have to say he was one of the very best. And for that, you just have to take your hat off. As a person, he's not somebody I wouldn't have invited him around for my house for dinner. And that's just the way it is. He's one of those players, isn't he, that you can be divided on. And he did. He got sent home from the '94 World Cup for drugs. He's been but he's a very complex character. I think we've all got complexities, all of us. So to judge any one person against somebody else is unfair.
Yeah.
But I think it just shows, how there's always an outpouring for that type of character, because what he was an individual, wasn't he? And I think people love that. We can talk about Paul Gascoigne in a similar light. Obviously, luckily he's still alive, but he's probably some of the things he does is atrocious, but he's still loved. And I think it's because of his uniqueness and his standout personality. So I mean, it's a very sad, and it's very right that we honour him as the great footballer that he was.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up there, Neil. So thanks a lot for your time this evening, and enjoy the rest of your night, whatever you've got planned and stuff as well. And hopefully we can get that, victory tomorrow and put ourselves into the third round.
Yeah, good luck to the boys tomorrow, and good luck to the fans who get to go next week and get back and enjoy their game. And also, I would send a message to the fans: you remember how much you missed football, and get behind your team and support them. Don't moan at them, support them, because you've probably realised how much you've missed it as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll leave it there then. And I was just going to say, just quickly as well, in regards to if we do draw a Premier League tie, then we've got the possibility, if it is 1-1 or 2-2, whatever, then we go to extra time and penalties rather than a replay, and then that's a completely different complexion of the game again.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you're right. Actually, the replays are gone now, haven't they? So let's get tomorrow out of the way. We'll deal with the other one if it comes. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, we were fortunate to be in this position on the back of a penalty shootout last time out, where there were a few leagues below us, and fortunately we had perfect penalties on that day and got through. But yeah.
That shows the beauty of the competition. Concord Rangers, like I say, several leagues below, but they on the day they match Stevenage, and that's what we need to be aiming to do tomorrow.
All right, well, cheers for that, Neil. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks, Mike. You take care.
Nice one. Cheers, mate. Bye now. Bye.